Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's late night Q&A with ZodWriter. And tonight, I have the absolute pleasure of hosting two awesome people, two great friends of mine, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett and Mikey Sutton. This is a show I've been waiting to do for so long. I've been waiting to bring Mikey, you, and Rob together on the same stream. This is so exciting. We've got a lot to talk about. I mean, welcome back, Robert, and welcome, Mikey. You guys are awesome.
So glad to be here with the legendary Meyer Burnett, who, by the way, we're both from Washington State. Another thing we have in common here.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say to both of you, Zod, you and we've been talking over the years, and I've loved being on your show. But I want to give it up to the two of you, because you're both doing work. You're both creating. You're creators, Zod. You've been working on this book, and I know that you went through kind of a long, dark night of the soul, wondering whether or not you should scrap the work. You made the right choice. You said no. I'm going to finish the. God bless you, sir. And Mikey, everyone's favorite Marvel scooper, but look what you've done. Yeah. Wow, you become an executive producer of a show based on your work. That's incredible.
Thank you.
It's very inspiring to me to see you guys creating work that's your own, and that it expands. And because, that's to me, I've always felt that as fans, we kind of have an obligation. We bitch, we moan, we complain on YouTube. We scream and yell, but content creation is fine. But to actually create work that's your own, whether it's a comic that later gets turned into a show or a book, this is great work, you guys. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, a little going meta here. Zod, not sure if you know, Robert, Zod's in my comic book. He debuts in issue 3 as a character named Zod.
Wow.
In fact, his first scene in issue 3, he's reading a newspaper called Socks Bulletins. Just Socks is in the chat here. When he walks out of the restaurant, he's holding a book called Pause Not Stop. So there's a lot of little in-jokes and Easter eggs throughout the whole issue. And I needed a private investigator type for the comic book, and I thought, it's Zod. Zod's that person.
He's a gumshoe.
He's a gumshoe, yeah, or Ben Urich type of figure, and so So I said, perfect. I got him.
And Mikey, you've been doing so much work with Dreamwalker, where you've gotten all of your characters and all of your inspirations for people you've gotten to know over the years through doing your streams with Sil, and it's just been remarkable to see. I mean, how does I got to ask you, Mikey, and this is the first question I have: how does it feel to go from a comic book, an idea, something that's still new that's basically just starting to come out, to jumping over to doing an actual series, an actual production that's going to be a TV show? How does that feel inside you? Is it a special feeling? Is it okay? I mean, I'm really wondering.
It feels like a dream, and when Variety came out with the news that on February 1st, I knew it was coming, but it didn't really hit me until I saw it, right? And I remember doing a Variety watch, okay, is it there yet? And the president of the studio told me, "Can you guys hold on just for a second? Right back."
Absolutely. And Rob, I mean, you've experienced this, going from you're having an idea and then making your movie with Free Enterprise, and then going on to do other projects. I mean, how did that feel for you initially when you came through in that way?
Well, it's an amazing thing, because I think, first of all, creating something at all, whatever it is, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, is inherently a positive act, because you're setting out to make something. which means that you have a goal in mind, which is to finish what you set out to do.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, don't, and they question themselves. That's why for you, Zod, when you were first starting, you were talking about writing your book online, and I was excited. I'm like, oh, I want to read that. And then I know because of how things change in the real world, you might have quit. And you didn't. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what happens in the real world. What matters is your perspective and you sharing your story, because it doesn't matter how the real world changes. What matters is your perspective and how you feel about things, because whenever you and the same is true of Mikey's work, because he created a work out of whole cloth. It's his, and a lot of people give up, and there's nothing better than seeing something through something you conjure it up out of nothing. Like it's the act of creation. And I don't think that there's anything better than that. And for me, it was so funny. Like when we made Free Enterprise, it started with, I was pissed off that Rick Berman didn't like this 5-minute video. By the way, it was genius. This genius compilation that I had made about the original series that was going to go into the Star Trek experience. And Rick Berman thought it was, the note I got back was too much original series. I'm like, who cares? It's 5 minutes. It's going to play in the Las Vegas experience. But, he wanted to promote his Star Trek. So I was mad. And I told Mark Altman about it. And then Mark Altman calls me back and reads me this scene that I had told him about my childhood. And he goes, we should write a movie about ourselves. What? And then we did. And then we're like, we wrote a movie of wish fulfillment where we're friends with William Shatner. And that was our script. We didn't talk to William Shatner. We never told him we were writing the movie. You know what's so funny? Since we're talking today right now, I found this, because I moved. You're going to love this. This will answer everything you need to know. This, when we sent William Shatner our script, this is the letter. This is the letter he sent me in 1998.
Oh my God!
This is the actual letter. I found it. I got to read this to you. Okay, keep in mind that we started shooting Free Enterprise in February of 1998. Shatner contacted us right before Christmas of 97. We rewrote the script over the holidays, and on January 9th, 1998, Shatner wrote us this letter. This is the actual letter. Dear Mark and Rob, thanks for sending me your rewritten script. It seems to me you have a funny movie. Actually, I should read it in his voice. But I still feel the same way. No, I simply can't bring myself to play myself in a movie. It's just too much. It has nothing to do with the quality of your script. It has to do with the concept of Shatner on Shatner. I appreciate your efforts, and I hope that the future will offer us another opportunity. We were shooting our movie less than a month later.
Wow.
To quote Galaxy Quest, never give up, never surrender.
Yep, yeah. I agree with you there. So
how'd you do it, Mikey?
It's the craziest.
Tell us the tale.
Oh my God. Am I going to give you a Watchmen style summary of everything that happened?
That would be
Wait,
great.
Would this be Rorschach's journal summary, or is this the Ozymandias' journal? Like, what are we doing?
More like Dr. Manhattan, actually.
Oh, well, that's even better.
There you go. I guess we go back to 1991. I was watching 120 Minutes. On
MTV?
MTV, yeah.
Oh my God, I miss that so much. I watch it every Sunday night.
So did I. And so they said there's a band coming up called the Candy Skins. I'm like, what's a cool name, the Candy Skins? So I hit record on my VC without hearing a song. Just hit record. I'm like, okay. I'm watching this video, and there's a line in the song where it goes, the song is called Submarine Song by the Candy Skins. There's a line in the song that goes, but I walk through your dreams. I'm like, that is the coolest lyric like I've ever heard, right?
Wow.
And the rest of the song has nothing to do with that. It's just that one line, but I walk through your dreams. I take the video. I go to college the next day. I was telling a friend of mine about it. Like, there's a song called by the Candy Skins. It has the coolest lyrics. I walk through your dreams. And I remember telling her, what a cool power that would be, right? To walk through someone's dreams. And I was trying to write fiction back then. I wrote some horror stories that never got published. And Robert, I wrote a story called Cadaver Girls. About,
of course you did.
Of course I did, right? About necrophiliac strippers, right? Which got rejected by a necrophilia magazine. I kid you not. They said it was too disturbing for them.
Wow. I would take that as a badge of honor.
I did. I still had a letter somewhere here. I think the funniest rejection letter I ever got.
They literally should have let you run the magazine at that point, Mikey. I mean, come on. If they're too squeamish for their own content, they need to get out of the way.
He goes, "We are a pro necrophilia magazine. This story is disgusting." But anyway, so I was trying to get stories published, but I had this idea of a girl who can walk through people's dreams, and I just slept on it for decades, dude. I didn't do anything with it until about 2008, 2017, right? This artist, I had no idea who he was. I did a scoop. I scooped a show called Voltus 5. It was an anime from the 70s.
Come on, dude. Yeah. I have a diecast Voltus 5.
You do?
They made a Godaiken, an early. Remember the? Well, I don't know if Godaiken, the diecast Godaiken. I love from the early '80s. Those shit. Yeah. They're so expensive.
It was the birth of like Gold Lion and Voltron. It's where all that stuff.
It's where all
originated from. Yeah.
Yes.
And so actually he's watching right now. Noel Leon Flores is watching right now. So I scooped Voltus 5 Legacy on my Facebook, and Noel messaged me. He goes, you're right about that scoop. It is true, because I'm one of the people working on the series, right? You just never know who you meet. And Noel sent me his concept art for Voltus 5 to show that, yeah, it's real. They're really doing it, you know? And he said, hey, why don't we work together sometime on like an MCU type of comic book or whatever? And I'm like, and all I can think of was that girl who can walk through people's dreams, right? And I said, okay, we'll get back to it. And originally, Robert, it was supposed to be a comedy, like a shoujo Rumiko Takahashi type of, I'm a 1/2 type of comedy. And she goes through people's dreams. She steals objects and kind of mischievous. She kind of trolls them through their dreams, right? And it wasn't funny. I can't write comedy. You know, I can do comedy online. I mean, on a show, but I can't write it.
Tim's talk's funny. He asks when I'm playing Tiger Woods next. Apparently,
he says $5 super chat from Tim's Talks. Thanks, Tim. Says, Rob, when are you playing Tiger Woods next on the PGA Tour? He just texted me. Love you, bro.
I spent too much time with his ex-wife. Ba-bam!
Oh, wow. There you go. Well, we won't mention any other names, will we, Rob?
I mean, this is it's cold. It is so cold here. It's like in the 30s. It never gets in the 30s here in LA. I'm like, wow, what's happening? I don't know.
I still can't believe all this inclement weather that you guys
know, it's crazy.
Well, the whole United States is a big. At least it's not a bomb cyclone. Now it's just like some icy. It's some Roland Emmerich day after tomorrow shit, which would be cool. I mean,
guys, maybe this is how the world's going to end.
There you go.
Through some weird global storm that is,
I would actually kind of dig that, to be honest. All the freeways would ice over here in Southern California. Would be awesome.
Nobody could live without their hot cocoa and coffee, and it would just be. That'd be the only way we could survive.
I mean, it's better than the nuclear fire that, China, North Korea, and Russia is going to rain down upon us.
Yeah. That too. So Mikey, I'm curious because, your ideas about, Cat, aka Kate the Dreamwalker, walking through people's dreams.
Yeah.
when I listen to you talk about it all the time, and all the stuff you've said and written, it's like I can't help but be reminded a little bit of A Nightmare on Elm Street in the Dream Warriors, and oftentimes I find myself thinking, my God, I would wonder what a script would look like between Mikey Sutton and the late Wes Craven. Delving into like a Dreamwalker type Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, I would watch the hell out of that.
I'm sitting here thinking right now that Kate is the ultimate dream warrior. I mean, she is. It's just so, and you couldn't have picked a better actress to model your character off of. Either.
You know what? One of the first movies I remember seeing. Actually, you know what? Zod is the first movie I remember seeing, and I shouldn't have watched it at that age. I saw Last House on the Left at a drive-in.
Oh my
Wes Craven,
God!
And I'm about 5 or 6 years old.
Dude, what?
Traumatized for life.
That explains a lot.
No wonder you were writing necrophilia stories.
Why he's watching rape revenge films at 5. What? You killed our daughters? Well, oh man.
I remember hiding in the van so they couldn't see. They were bringing a kid into the theater, into the drive-in, right? They had a flashlight. I still remember that, hiding in the back of the seat, like to see who was there. And I'm just 5 years old watching this movie. Well, I
haven't seen Tim's talk in a while, by the way. It's good to see him.
Yeah, it's nice to see him popping by. Yep.
You know, for decades, I hadn't seen the film for decades, right? I saw it again 10 years ago, but I hadn't seen it for the longest time. All I remembered, Robert, of that film was pubic hair and guys throwing up blood.
Yeah, it's funny. I always talk about, like, I call it bush porn. I love bush, and whether it's softcore porn, I say bush porn of the 70s, and people they don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, what does bush porn mean? And I'm like, well, it's all. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean exactly what I'm saying. It is.
And excellent comment here from the good Austin. He says, "Well, the Mikey origin story makes so much sense now."
I mean, it's so funny because Last House on the Left is not a nice movie.
No, it's very mean.
But we don't even. What's funny? Here's Mikey. You'll get this. Yeah. We grew up in a world. Can you imagine if our online social justice warrior, if they had grown up in the 70s and saw what I mean, they have no clue.
Yeah.
No clue. They all these the kids today and everyone
these kids today.
I mean, if they saw what we watched in the 70s, like I look at my I did a show on my own channel about Roald Dahl. They're rewriting Roald Dahl, and I'm like, have you guys seen They Call Her One Eye? Have you seen, or that's the tame American version. Have you watched Thriller, A Cruel Picture? I mean, there's stuff that came out that people would, I can't even imagine. And we watched that stuff on video. I Spit on Your Grave one Saturday afternoon. My mom downstairs and my mom comes down and she's like, I'm like 13. And my mom's like, what are you watching? And Camille Keaton's being like raped 5 times all day. And my mom's like, should you be watching this movie? I'm like, I don't know, Mom. I just rented it from the video store. And she's like, okay.
like Emmanuel and the Cannibals.
That's with Laura Gemser.
I was about to say, I saw I Spit on Your Grave with my mom when I was 13 as well. It was one of the first VHS tapes I ever saw.
On Wizard Video. Wizard Video. Wizard Video.
Family time, right?
I mean, it's so weird that we live in this bizarre puritanical. I mean, in the 70s, you could be anybody you wanted.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, if whatever you want me to use your pronouns, I'd use them. You want to be trans? Be trans. In the 70s, nobody cared. Now we live in this weird puritanical bizarre. I'm like, I mean, I've got Solo on Laserdisc.
Oh my God.
You know? I mean,
Yeah, I know about that.
I mean,
Rosemary's Baby, the original cut.
I mean, it's so it's amazing that we live in this world where everyone's become this. They're policing. Like I've often said, if somebody gets a hold of my Amazon order, what I've ordered over the last 20 years, they're going to look at what movies I bought or what I buy from Vinegar Syndrome. You know, I love Vinegar Syndrome, and you know they've been lovingly restoring 70s bush porn to 4K, and it's amazing. God bless them. They're beautiful. They're doing the God's work for the kids today. I mean, kids today, they don't even want to get laid. What's going on?
What's up with that?
I don't know. It's so weird.
It's something in the food and in the air, Rob.
Well, it's. I mean. I think, I mean, look, if we had the internet when we were kids, I would be very intimidated. I'd be scared to kiss a girl that I wasn't good enough because I'm, you know, you log in and you can watch any fetish, any kind of, I mean, there was, back in the day, there in my neighborhood, we had the woods and there literally was a tree where there were Playboys buried under the tree and you could go out. You know, that was a true story and you could go there. And like it was like Stand By Me, but instead of finding a dead body, we wanted to find nudie magazines.
Yeah, I should tell Rob about my story time with. Okay,
yes.
Robert. Back in '78, we moved into this house. We were
now where in Washington did you grow up?
Okay, this was in Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay.
6 years. So we moved into this house in '78. And we were given this house, right? This Filipino wife and American husband. The husband was obsessed with porn, right? We didn't know at the time when we moved in. So I go in the bathroom and I saw something I have never seen since: wallpaper porn. It was wallpaper like bush.
Oh, yeah,
everywhere.
okay. Yep.
You know, I'm like, 9 years old. Like, what the hell is this? You know. They just wanted to stare at it forever, you know what I mean? But can you imagine that existing now in this culture? They would freak out,
dude. Freak out. I mean, the first pornographic movie I ever saw was The Devil and Miss Jones.
Yeah,
and what's interesting about that film is it's a serious movie. It's a pornographic movie that opens with a woman slitting her wrists in a bathtub. And it's one of the. It was Deep Throat, Devil and Miss Jones, and Behind the Green Door. Those I actually copied those onto one cassette. And the Devil and Miss Jones, I think Gerard Damiano directed it. Mm-hmm. And in that movie, so a woman kills herself, and she goes to purgatory, and they're going to send her to hell. And she's bargaining for her life, and she's like, well, if I'm going to go to hell, send me back and at least let me live my life out for like a month or 2 months or something in total debauchery, and then I feel that I'll earn my way into hell or whatever. And then you go, and for an hour and a half, it's boom, chicka, boom, bow, you know. And when I was watching this, I didn't even know that there were penises that existed that were that big. I mean, it was just so gigantic. But at the end of that movie, after you've watched all these incredible sex scenes, when she actually gets sent to hell, she's turned into a nymphomaniac, and the movie ends in a jail cell. It ends in a jail cell where she just wants this guy. She's in this jail cell with this guy who's out of his mind. And he's like, the spiders, they're all crawling all over me. They're crawling all over me. And she's like, I want you to touch me. And that's for all eternity. And that's how it ended. I'm like, this is a fucking horrible Twilight Zone episode. That was the first pornographic movie I ever saw. I'm like, there's like gigantic penises, and you wind up in hell after you have sex.
You know, speaking of pornographic movies, I got to say, I got to see your pornographic acting debut in the Star Wars.
Oh, did you watch it?
Triple X. Yes, I saw the film, and I would say you deserve an award for your time in that X-Wing. It was amazing.
Well, I tried. Okay, here's what was so funny about that. So Kylie Ireland, who is Red Leader, for those of you who don't know, my friend Eli Cross, the famous porn director, who's won AVN awards he wins awards at the Adult Video News Awards. It's like the Academy Awards of porn. He wins Best Screenplay Awards. That's the kind of guy he is. Best Screenplay Awards. He calls me up and he goes, in his downtown warehouse, he's like, we're making Star Wars XXX. You got to come down here and check it out. They built X-Wing fighter cockpits. That's not a euphemism. It's an actual cockpit where you're in the cockpit. So they have a cockpit where they're shooting X-Wings. They built the Millennium Falcon. They built the Rebel base. It was incredible. And he goes, you should come down. You could be Biggs Darklighter. And I'm like, can I have a 70s porn stash? He goes, yeah. So I dyed my hair black and put the porn stash on. But they give me almost a film accurate Rebel flight suit.
The suit was very accurate, like 70s, 1977 stuff.
It was awesome. And I get in, and they have to film. They only have one cockpit, so they're filming each of the Rebel pilots individually. And Kylie Ireland, who's a famous porn star, she's so nice. She's Red Leader, and I'm down there looking around, going like, and all the other actors like looking straight ahead. I'm like, no, you have to understand. There's like X-Wings are being set upon by the TIE fighters. You got to like look around. You don't know where they are. I tried to make it look good. I mean, I flew in. Look, my epitaph, my tombstone should say, "Here lies Robert Meyer Burnett. He once flew an X-Wing in a pornographic parody of Star Wars." Maybe that's what I should say on my tombstone.
Well, that has to be on anybody's bucket list, I'm sure, though. I mean, just at least one.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: it doesn't matter in what form you got to fly the X-Wing, as long as you got to fly the X-Wing.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I was in a special effect.
I mean, honestly, it's like, does it matter? I mean, it's like, listen, I was in the X-Wing. It was an awesome flight. The special effects were pretty great.
I died.
Yeah,
I get killed over the. It's so funny. So like, I did that over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, right after I did it, there were people in the industry that found out. They're like, dude, you were in a Star Wars porn film? Don't tell anybody that. Now, 10 years later, like, you were in a Star Wars porn film? That's awesome.
Those are as good as the real thing.
And I have to explain. They're like, well, I don't have a porn cock, so I didn't do any sex. And I'm like, I flew an X-Wing. Isn't that the best?
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Negative. Didn't go in. Just impacted on the surface. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They weren't any bigger than 2 meters.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I told everybody that this was going to be a party. They just don't understand. For real. I mean, again, the whole concept of being able to just do that. And it's so funny because a lot of these parodies are essentially, you could watch the non, adult elements of the films and actually get a competent story in some of these movies. It's insane.
Oh yeah. More canonical than the and by the way, the Axel Braun, who directed that movie, Axel Braun has done a lot of the Marvel porn parodies and stuff.
And Superman versus Spider-Man.
And the people that are making them are real. They're all fans. They're all like nerdy people. Like Eli Cross is a huge comic and Star Wars fan, collects statues and action figures and omnibuses and everything. Huge. And when I met him, we became friends. We bonded. A mutual female friend introduced us, and we actually did an early version of what are now YouTube shows, 12 years ago. And it was before. It's funny because I always thought we should keep streaming together because, and then he went on. He went on and actually made a pretty interesting low-budget sci-fi film called Diminuendo. That was one of Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica, one of Richard Hatch's last films. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I met Richard Hatch a few years ago, right before he passed away, and I regret not taking a picture with him. That's one thing I just.
I remember seeing Richard Hatch in the Klingon makeup for Star Trek Axanar
that I worked on, of course.
that you worked on, and that's why I brought it up. Honestly, it was so brilliant. Like the whole concept of it was perfect. It would have been amazing. I was blown away, Rob. I really was, man.
By the way, you want to hear something really cool? Now, I will say this, and I've never said this to Terry Metalis because he didn't write the episode. So in tonight's episode 2 of Star Trek Picard. There's something. So I was working on the Star Trek Axanar feature film, and if you look at my Star Trek Axanar Origins videos, I think they're just Axanar Origins. We came up with something. Bill Hunt and I came up with something that no one had ever done in Star Trek before. And what we had come up with is that a starship in combat with the Klingons shears off one of the warp engines of a Klingon battlecruiser and uses its tractor beam and takes the sheared off engine and throws it at the other Klingon battlecruiser. Kinetic that could smash through the shields and takes out a Klingon battlecruiser. Now, I'm not saying that in Star Trek Picard Season 3 somebody saw this, but I am saying that in Star Trek Picard Season 3 Episode 2, they do exact... And the thing is, I only say this because you can actually watch the animatics of what happens. You can watch the whole thing. And in tonight's episode, when I first saw it, I'm like, I didn't say anything to Terry. I'm like, interesting, because what I did was in 2015, and it's been online for years. I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying something.
So, before I forget, so 2018, so Noel, Leanne Flores, and I were communicating back and forth, and found out he's working on Boldest 5, and he did ask me, like, hey, can we work on a comic book together? And I had to tell him that, I'm kind of struggling with the story. Then all of a sudden in September of that year, I had a stroke. I collapsed on the floor in my room, and no one else was here.
Oh, my God.
And I was 400 pounds, almost 400 pounds at the time. I've lost over 250 pounds since then.
Congratulations.
But I collapsed on the floor and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. And my mother wasn't home. There was nobody home. So I was on the floor for 3 hours. And I was, that whole cliche of seeing your life pass before your eyes is exactly what happened to me. I kept thinking, but the thing is, I didn't think of the big events in my life. I thought of small things. It's weird. Like it's the smallest things, like what I had for dinner the night before. Just weird things like what I thought of. My mother finally came home. She saw me on the floor. I said, I think I had a stroke. On 911 right now.
Oh my God.
I couldn't move. So I was immediately taken to the hospital where I was dying. I mean, I was literally dying. And I remember this nurse came up to me. I referred to her as the Lady of Death now. She said, "You're going to die tonight."
Wow, what great bedside manner.
Exactly right. And she said, "Do you want me to call it? You should tell your family that, say your last goodbyes." And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna die. There's no way, And so she said, and this kind of reminds me of Nightmare on Elm Street. She goes, "Don't go to sleep. Whatever you do, because you won't wake up." Is what she told me.
Maybe it was a hallucination of something from
maybe I don't know. But I never saw her again.
Did you actually start singing the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, right. 3, 4, better lock your door? Because I would have. I'm like, I'm not going to sleep.
Yeah.
So I kept looking at the blood pressure monitor behind me to see if it was going to go down or not. It did go down, and I was okay, but I did go to sleep. I told Doctor it's safe for me to go to sleep now. He goes, "Oh yeah, it's safe. We'll watch over you." And like, okay. But the next morning, Robert, when I woke up, a doctor came to me, and he said, "Well, you'll survive, but I have bad news, and you may never write again." and you may never walk again your whole life. It's going to be up to your physical therapy and how well you do and how much work you put into it. But I can't guarantee you'll regain these um, abilities. And
Oh my God.
so imagine telling a writer not to be able to write again. I mean, so in the course of a month and a half, I had to relearn how to use my hands. I mean, all I could use was my thumb. I would text with one thumb, and I still do that, by the way, just because I'm out of habit now. But I couldn't walk.
Oh my God.
And so,
Can I ask you a personal
sure,
question?
yeah.
How did you personally feel? Were you angry? Did you want to give up, or were you filled with resolve? Like, screw these people.
I feel with resolve. I felt that I'm a person that when I'm up against the wall is when I do my best for some reason. But if everything is going great, I'm too complacent. And I just felt like Spider-Man. I felt like that Spider-Man comic book where he's trying to lift up, that famous issue where he's trying to lift up that structure that's over his body. He's trying to pull through it. That's how I felt.
Wow.
So 2.5 months later, I was starting to type again. I was starting to walk again. But Robert, something had happened with my brain. They never really analyzed my brain. I couldn't analyze anything. But I was creative. Like I'm using a different part of my brain. The stroke did something to me. It switched. The part of my brain I'm using the most, it switched.
Right. You became a creative superhero.
Yeah, being creative, And so I thought about that Dreamwalker girl still, and I knew that Noel was waiting for something, but he knew I had a stroke and everything.
Well, Noel, he has a theory here. He says it was Dr. Gregory House pretending to be a nurse, being mean. It could have been. I mean, you never know, because Noel, he really does take it to you sometimes, Mikey.
Well, there you go. In my imagination, Robert, I'm thinking she looks like Louise Fletcher from When the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh,
wow.
No. Oh, that's horrible.
Nah, but Nurse Ratched, I mean.
Oh, God.
Or if you're a Star Trek fan, Kai Wynn.
There you go.
Oh, God.
So I got back home around November 2018. I discovered I could walk by accident. Like I went to the kitchen without my walker, and I'm like, holy shit, where's my walker? I walked here without my walker. I freaked out. I thought I was going to collapse or something.
Wow.
I started walking back and forth to the living room. And this is where it gets weird, Robert. It just gets really weird from here on in.
As opposed to the rest of this conversation? Come on now.
Exactly. Yeah, it gets weirder.
You can say anything.
I'm walking, exercising back and forth to the living room. My mom was watching a soap opera. I don't watch any soap opera, especially Filipino soap opera.
Dude, General Hospital's rad. Come on.
Well, I used to, when I was a kid, I used to look in Laura, of course. But anyway, so my mom was watching a soap opera called Onanay in the Filipino soap opera, and I saw this girl on there, this stunningly beautiful girl, which is Kate Valdez.
Yes.
I'm like, who's this girl? Like, I looked her up online and discovered her name was Kate Valdez, right? So I posted her picture on Facebook, and Robert, he did Free Enterprise. One of the things I love about Free Enterprise is that he has She Sells Sanctuary by the Cult, and one of the scenes just blew me away.
Oh, first of all, Kate Valdez is smoke.
Yeah, he is.
Like now, just because you brought that up,
yeah.
In order to get that song in the movie,
yeah,
Spring Aspers, our music supervisor, said, you can get so for those of you who don't know, the Cult released an album, I want to say 86, it might have been 85, but
I think it was 86.
Okay, yeah,
Love?
It's called Love.
Yeah.
And She Sells Sanctuary was a song on the album, but I wanted the extended version. It's quote unquote 12-inch version.
The Howling Mix?
The long, hey, and Billy Duffy. So my music supervisor says, well, Ian Astbury, the lead singer for the Cult, wants to meet with you, and he wants you to explain why you want this song.
Wow.
I swear to God. So I went and met with him in an office right off Ventura Boulevard, actually very close to William Shatner's office. And I sat down with him and I said, I've seen you guys live 3 times. And he asked me, he goes, he's British. He's like, oh, really, mate? Well, he wanted to know where I saw him. And I had to explain. I told him, I said, well, the 3 places I saw him. And I said, look, and I even told him, I said, I think Electric, which is the album that came out after Love, I said it sounded too much like AC/DC.
Yeah.
And Sonic Temple, I want to say, I think Sonic Temple had come out then.
89, yeah.
Yeah. So it hadn't come out before I met with him.
Yeah.
Or maybe it had, because Sonic Temple came out in 8. Of course it did. So yeah. So it was Love, and then it was Electric and Sonic Temple.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking for like 2 hours, and he wanted to know. I said, okay. I had to explain what Sanctuary was from Logan's Run, which he hadn't seen. And I had to explain. I go,
Wow.
okay, well, Sanctuary was a play, and why these characters liked it, and they were turning 30 in the movie. And when I explained that all to him, he was like, "That's great, mate." We still had to pay. By the way, it cost us $10,000 to use that song in Free Enterprise.
Wow.
And so there were 4 songs that we paid $10,000 for in Free Enterprise. She Sells Sanctuary. Duran Duran's The Night version of Planet Earth.
Yeah.
There was Shriekback's Underwater Boys, and there was what was the 4th song? I can't remember. There was one more song, and so I had $100,000 for music. When we made Free Enterprise, my original festival version, I had $1.5 million worth of music rights when we sold the film. So for people that don't understand, you can put any song you want in your movie, and you can get festival rights to it, and you pay little amounts of money. But if you sell the movie to someone else, then you have to buy the actual rights to the song. And for our movie, all the 80s music I'd used in Free Enterprise, when they calculated it out, was $1.5 million.
Oh my God! Just for the songs.
We shot Free Enterprise for like $600,000. So there was no way, and we made a deal with a record company. So the budget of the film, we had $50,000 for music, and the record company gave me $50,000 more. And the 4 songs they wanted for the soundtrack record was $40,000. So I had $60,000 left to put in music for a movie that had $1.5 million worth of 80s music in it.
Man.
So,
Well, when I posted her picture, Robert, I quoted She Sells Sanctuary.
oh my God, dude. This girl is so unbelievable. But I've seen her before. Where's she from? She's beautiful.
She's from the Philippines, yeah. That's all her acting she's done is in the Philippines.
Wow, well.
And so I quoted the song. I said, "The sparkle in your eyes keeps me alive." That line in the song. And I posted that picture of her, and then the commented and goes, "Oh, I know her." And I'm like, "You do?" Like, I had no idea he worked on a show that she was on. I had no idea how high up he was. And so, do you want to talk to her? Do you want to interview her? I said, "Yeah, I do." Within a week,
I do too. Can you hook me up?
Incidentally, she was Mikey. You posted something today, and her excitement when she was talking, and every time she said your name, the way her face lit up, like I couldn't understand all the stuff, a lot of the stuff she was saying, but when she said Mikey or Mikey Sutton, her face lit up like a cherry. I was like, wow, imagine the effect. And she kept saying things like she's in good hands and all this stuff. I was like, wow, Mikey, you really made a positive impression.
Well, she's in the Philippines. She's quite accomplished. I mean, she's
very popular.
Yeah, she's got a lot of work, and I love. It's really interesting. I love that you're bringing somebody from the Philippines to America. How cool is that?
Oh my God, it's brilliant.
When I interviewed her, Robert, 2018, Marvel Studios was trying to cast Kate Bishop at the time, and what I was told is they wanted a Filipina actress to play her, so I was trying to get Kate to be Kate Bishop. They ended up getting with Haley Steinfeld, who is Filipina, by the way. So Scoop confirmed it with a
Yeah,
Filipina.
she's
You know, but I promised Kate. I said, number one, I'm going to turn you into a comic book character. Number two, I'll make you an international star. Mission accomplished. All these years later, I did it. I don't know how I do
amazing.
it, but I did it. I promised her. And people who were on my Facebook at the time remember seeing that because I was there when you said that in your Facebook. And like, my God, you did it. And so when her and I were talking, Robert, she said because she's a total like comic book geek and she loves anime and horror films and things like that. She said, "Have you seen The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix?" I said, "No, I haven't." And I watched Riverdale, but I just got back from the hospital. I haven't caught up with that one. You should really see it. So I'm watching Sabrina one night on Netflix, and I'm like, "What am I doing writing a comedy? Let me turn this comic book into a horror comic."
That amazes me more than anything else. That Dreamwalker was initially a comedy.
It
That
was a
to
comedy.
me, I mean,
Goofy.
wow.
She's like a Dennis the Menace type, always like causing trouble, and all of a sudden, like in the original comic book, the original script, Robert, she went into a kid's dream and stole his ice cream. Now, in the new version, she goes
Was it
into
bubblegum ice cream?
in the rewritten version, she goes into the kid's nightmare and he's chopping up his dad. Okay, so
Oh,
Wow. It's back into your wheelhouse. So
back in
there
my
you go.
wheelhouse, right? And so I wrote the script in a week and I sent it to Noel, and he was working on Voltage 5 at the time. And a couple of months later, he sent me the first illustration of Kate Valdez as Dreamwalker. And I posted on Facebook, and she loved it. She loved it. And her network, the GMA network, did a story on the drawing. and I'm thinking, Robert, I was broke at the time. I had no idea how this book was going to get published. I just figured, you know what? I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to announce it. I boldly announced it. I'm doing a comic book that I had no money to pay for, right? So I put it out there, and GMA did a full story on it. And then at the time, Robert, when I posted this, keep in mind this is after my Spider-Man scoop that changed everything for me. Tom Holland stays in the MCU. Okay, that's another weird story, by the way, by itself. I was not going to make that public because I was not a scooper. I scoop for fun. Sometimes I would scoop things that are public, but most of the time I had pseudonyms I would use on YouTube channels, the Black Knight, the Shadow.
Sure.
But that one dropped on her birthday, okay? And she's a huge fan of Spider-Man and Tom Holland. And I'm like, man, what a sucky way to wake up on your birthday and you find out that your favorite actor is leaving the MCU, right? And so I decided to go public with that scoop that Tom Holland was going to stay and Sony was just doing a leverage move. All because of her. I wanted her to see that instead of reading Deadline and getting bad news. And so my insider totally goes, run with the story. It's true. Okay, I will. And I expected nothing from it. Wasn't trying to become famous or anything. I posted it that afternoon. Within an hour, it had 1,000 shares. And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? And I discovered, Robert, I was the only one saying this. That no one else was saying it. And some guy, I don't know who it is, saw my track record that had been quietly posting on Facebook. Like, this is the guy that broke the Spider-Man deal to begin with. He broke the Disney. This guy knows what he's talking about. A day later, Yahoo.com put it on their front page, and
oh my god!
I mean, it just went berserk, right?
Hold that. I will be right back.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back, you guys. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. There's one thing, Mikey, while we wait for Robert to come back. Socks is saying Mikey Sutton is changing lives and making our dreams come true. Thanks goes to Mikey Sutton for that. And
thank you, Socks.
Thank you, Socks. Socks is so supportive of all of us and is always always promoting. It's amazing.
He coined the phrase Mikeyverse, so
Yes,
there you
he
go.
did.
And
yes, he did.
I tell you, Socks, it was great joy writing your first appearance in issue 3 because that last scene in the book is hysterical. When you show up during that scene,
it's going to be so great. I cannot wait for issue 3 to come out, Mikey. I am every time I think about issue 3, my face gets like Kate Valdez. Every time she mentions Mikey Sutton, her face just lights up. Like that video. If I was you, I'd be posting it all over social media. Well, wait, you are.
I am, yeah.
Well, so that I mean,
all my family saw it.
Yeah, that is incredible. Like she is just, you can tell she is stoked for the role. You could tell she's super excited to be a part of Dreamwalker. You could tell she loves it. You could tell she loves you. And that is considering that Dreamwalker is your series, considering where you're, all the creative elements and things you're putting into Dreamwalker. I mean, that's got to be great to know that not only do you have the star that you wanted, the lead that you wanted, but you have a close relationship with her and she trusts you implicitly, knowing that no matter what happens, you're gonna that she's in good hands and Dreamwalker is gonna be her starring vehicle, and it's gonna and you're keeping true to her word when you told her you were gonna make her an international superstar.
I didn't know how I would do it, Zod, but I said, you know what? I'm just gonna follow my heart and see where it goes, and sure enough, boom. You know what I mean?
But you're living proof that when you put your literally that old saying, when you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Because really, you don't know, but it's like it's positive. It's positive visualization in a sense, because you're telling the universe that this is how it's going to be. This is what's going to happen.
I took control.
And you're taking control. You're hacking the universe, Mikey, to make Dreamwalker take over this planet that we're living on.
I feel really cosmic right now, Zod. Thank you.
You should. That actually should be a character. Cosmic Mikey should be a character in Dreamwalker.
I think about this. It's like I model it after an actress who actually is into comic books and superhero films. What are the chances of this happening? Like, she's into this stuff. Like, she's into horror. It just boggles the mind. But hey, Robert, so I posted that news that went viral. So I know get all these people adding me because of that. Right? Hey, who's this Mikey Sutton guy? There's one guy who adds me. I had no idea who he was. I only had 1,000 friends at the time, right? So I added him, and I found out he contacted me when I posted the first picture of Dreamwalker, and he said, "Hey, I'm interested in your comic book. Could you send me digital files when it's out?" And he was asking what the plot was. Had no idea, Robert. This guy is a president of a studio. No clue. Okay.
Wow.
He's a president of 108 Media, and it gets weirder. Okay, trust me, it gets weirder. So when I was running the horror Dreamwalker, I was looking for Filipino horror films that could inspire me, right? Because I haven't been to the Philippines since '87. So I saw this film on Netflix called Eerie. It's a really creepy little Filipino horror film, and I really enjoyed it. And the tone of Dreamwalker I got from that film, that atmospheric, moody tone, I got it from Eerie. So anyway, he contacted me and goes, when your book is out, can you just send me digital files? I said, okay. So February of last year, 2022, I sent him the digital file. The book came out, sold out in one day, right? So I sent him the files, and he messaged me back. He goes, "Oh, let me properly introduce myself. I'm the president of 108 Media, studio."
Yeah, of course.
We have an office in Singapore and in London, and my producer wants to talk to you. And my heart started to beat really fast. But I've been in the industry long enough. I think I know where this is headed, but I didn't want to get too excited, right? And I said, okay, well, I'll talk to your producer at Zoom conference, right? So We set up the interview.
By the way, people who are watching should know that everybody's full of shit in the industry. So don't believe anybody.
Yeah.
And so this is a cool thing.
Yeah. And so I'm talking with the producer in the middle of the night because she's in the Philippines, and she says, "Let me introduce myself. I produced a film called Eerie." I'm like, no fucking way.
Yep. That's amazing.
How is this possible? You produced a film that influenced a comic book. And I said, what a small world. I mean, how is this possible, right? And she goes, the reason why I want to talk to you is we want to option your comic book for a film or TV series. And I said, okay.
Wow.
And the comic book just came out, Robert. The first issue just came out. And all I had were digital files. And so I said, okay, well, show me the contract. And I'm being really calm. I've been in the industry too long, kind of jaded, you know what I mean? So I'm very calm. So the contract comes like 3 days later, and my email beeps, says subject contract. And I'm like, oh my God, here it is. I'm nervous, right? I'm like, what's this contract going to be like? I looked at the contract. I'm like, oh my God, it sounds good. It sounds too good to be true, even. I showed it to an attorney who immediately told me, if you don't sign this, you're a moron.
Wow.
Okay, he's like, okay, I'm signing it then. So we got another Zoom conference. This time the president was in the Zoom conference this time. And he said, well, we love your story, and we really want to do this. And so the producer asked me, check this out, Robert. She asked me, do you want a TV show or a movie? I'm like, what? Where in the world does this happen where you get an offer like that? Like, where you're given a choice? Like,
yeah, it's like going to the buffet.
Buffet, like, be a burger with no fries or whatever, right? So, I said I prefer a TV show because I want to prove that I'm worthy of a film, and also selfishly, I just feel that if they're going to adapt my comic book, I want more of the story to be adapted, right? And she goes, okay, well, live action show it is. Okay. And then the president pipes in and he goes, well, I have an idea. Why don't we make it, well, it's live action, but the scenes where she enters the dream world, or the villain enters the nightmare world, we'll make those animated. Like a combination of live action animation. Sounds
fantastic.
Right, exactly. And I said, okay, so that means you're going to outsource the animation, right? He goes, no, we actually bought an anime studio already, and we now we can use it, And the studio is called God, I'm blanking on the name now. But anyway, Variety had the article on them purchasing this anime studio for $6 million. And Robot Playground Media is the name of the animation company. They've done work for Disney, Robert. And so I'm like, that's an awesome idea. He goes, yeah, we bought the company. I'm like, okay, great. So the producer said that, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because I noticed you aren't saying anything about this. And she goes, you want Kay Valdez in this, don't you? Like, she did their homework. She saw, I can't mention, Kate's modeled after Kate.
Of course.
But I said, I didn't say anything because I feel I had no leverage in this. I just, you guys want to auction.
Smart. But you know what? If you don't know, if you keep your mouth shut,
and
just nod and go, don't say anything. Just
yes, exactly. I did. And she said, I promise you, if you sign this deal, we're gonna go after Kate. No auditions, nothing. We're gonna go ahead and offer.
Well, she was a known. I mean, if you even on like just a cursory glance at the IMDb, I mean, she's a known commodity in the Philippines. So, and by the way, I mean, look at her.
Oh yeah,
exactly. I said, Rob, I said this to Mikey before. I said she should be the next Wonder Woman, hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's really hard to explain to people. What you got was the best of both worlds in that you had a company that already had the wherewithal they had all the stuff they needed to make what they didn't have anything to make. Yeah. They had all the resources, but they didn't have something to make.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what's really interesting now is in America, everyone's looking for something to make and they don't have the resources. But this company did. And there are many companies that do, and they're looking for something that will break through. I mean, obviously the fact that you lived in America and you created this and having a Filipino background and all that, it was a perfect storm. So it's great, but you had to have done the work. If you did, everybody wants an IP that's already existing. They already could see that the work you had done. They're like, this is what we're making. Yeah. And if you hadn't done that, because, everybody is trying to write some rando screenplay and sell a spec script or whatever, and at least they were when I was coming up in the business. That doesn't happen anymore. Nobody wants to make a spec script because they want. It doesn't matter if it's been in another medium. That means it succeeded somewhere else. It doesn't have to have big success. It just means that here's the comic book. You might have published 100 copies. It doesn't matter. If it was in another form, then someone can be validated. And that, I don't mean to denigrate the comic book that you've done, but the fact that they had it and they came after you, the fact that you had done the work, you've already thought about it. They don't need. They'll develop it, sure, but they've already got. So they go to their financiers. They need, if they bought an animation company, they needed something to
There
make.
you go. There you go. Yeah, and I had no lofty goals of this becoming a show. I just wanted to get the comic book out with her in it. It's my only purpose.
Well, what's great about that is when now you're negotiating, you don't give a fuck. So you're
I don't care. Yeah.
But you're like, that means you don't. You're like, all you have to do is just be quiet.
That's exactly what I am.
And it's like, oh, is this enough? And you're just like smiling. Okay, we'll give you more. And then you just keep smiling. You're like, and even more.
Well, yeah, I had a poker face the whole time, Robert. I think it's probably why I kept getting stuff and just like, is this guy really interested in this or not? Because I'm just really, really, really coy. Like there was no like, oh my God, thank you.
Anybody working in the industry now, the industry will fuck you.
No
matter what, they will not. I mean, I'm still trying to get residuals from Agent Cody Banks, and that came out 20 years ago.
Oh my God!
According to the studio, I mean, I bought that script. Me and my partners, and we were. I'm the only single card credited producer in the main titles of that movie. We've never made according to Warner Brothers, the Harry Potter movies didn't make any money.
They're counting.
I mean, that's true, by the way, and it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. So all you can do is, but by you sticking your guns and be like, tell me what you want.
I was just very coy about it, and so I did sign the contract, and then that's when the president told me, he goes, Mikey, the reason why, I went and tried and got your comic book as quickly as possible before anybody else did, is that I have been wanting an Asian Buffy for the past 25 years. And you just gave me my Asian Buffy.
Asian Buffy.
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. I had no idea. Like the irony, Robert, is I've never seen Buffy at all.
What?
I've never seen it.
Buffy's rad. Although,
I know.
By the way, don't watch Buffy. What they did with those physical media releases, it is one of the great travesties. It is horrific what they did. Horrific.
When Buffy came out, there were no DVRs yet, and I was always working, and I never got a chance to see the show. But he had been looking for an Asian Buffy for the longest 20 years. And he goes, I found it with your work. And true to their word, like immediately after we got off the Zoom conference, they contacted Kate's manager immediately. Like they really were true to their word, like, making me happy and everything. That negotiation, Robert, took about 7 months. Okay. And
but that's not uncommon.
Exactly. And
did you have a good entertainment lawyer working for you?
Oh yeah. And the only unfortunate part about this, Robert, is I had to keep the secret from Kate the whole time because that was the policy of her network, was not to tell the actors.
Yeah, of course.
until they were about to sign, and then everything is formalized and everything.
Makes
And
sense.
so every time I spoke to her, we would talk about Dreamwalker. I'd be like, I have to bite my tongue, like I can't tell her a word.
Yeah, but you know what? How cool is it that you delivered?
I delivered, yeah. And so around 2 months later, Robert, I wasn't even thinking about director, right? Didn't even. I was so like focused on her. Yeah, I was so. Yeah, hold on a second.
Okay, and while we wait for Mikey to come back,
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Okay, go ahead, Mikey.
During that time, but 2 months later, I wasn't even thinking about director. He goes, "Yeah, we found a director." Like, okay, cool, just like so casual about it. And I said, "Who is it?" It's Mikhail Red, the director of Eerie.
I mean, look, it's a Cinderella story. It's which is great. I mean, look, you want the good guys to win, Mikey.
Yeah.
Don't you deserve this?
I
This
guess
is not.
I do.
This is the dream, right? This is
Yeah.
what it's all about. When
Yeah,
people
and look, I want anyone who listens to this story.
Yeah.
The lesson of this story is you already did the work.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
You already created the comic. You already did the work, and the fact is, had you not, this never would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Zod, I mean, that's the whole thing. You didn't give up on the book
Yeah.
that you're writing. I mean, you never know. I know one thing. I mean, there's the old adage: you miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Exactly.
There you go. That's true.
You know,
That's true.
and the fact is, Mikey, you. I mean, hey, might not be about necrophilia. You know, I understand. Maybe it's a little different. You know, in this day and age, might not have gone as far as Dreamwalker is going.
Probably
but
not.
hey,
Probably not.
I mean, we'll return to necrophilia later. Maybe one day someone's gonna. You know what? I have yet to hear someone identify as a necrophiliac. Maybe
Well,
that'll
you
be
see,
a new
that'll be a new pronoun.
Yeah, it'll let's. You know, but what you've done, I mean, to just to make it serious, you guys, to do the work and the work that you've done, and what's interesting is, you know, you were honest about it. You know, you went after things and you got the things that you wanted because you were earnest and you did the work. And I'm not saying, look, I don't believe in the kumbaya. Hollywood will fuck you at every turn. They don't care.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Everybody, but at the end of the day, they need the good work. And if the work is good, and you hold fast, there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. And now, especially because, you know, international material, Netflix quietly has become the repository of world entertainment. RRR. Squid Game.
Beautiful film, by the way.
You know, of course. And you know what? If it wasn't for Netflix bringing this stuff to American audiences, no one would ever see it. And Filipino stuff. I mean, there's great horror films being made all over the world these days. I mean, there's some terrific stuff, and there's no reason why what you've done should not be. People are going to see it, man, and it's going to be great.
And the cool part is that in the months that it took for Kate to find out, Mikhail Red, who had already signed for Dreamwalker, he swept the awards in the Philippines in December. His film The Leader got 7 awards, like their version of the Oscars. He got Best Picture and Best Director for a horror film.
Wow!
So he became a hot property overnight. Like on the social media, he's having meetings with Amazon Prime and Paramount Pictures. He's kind of that big now. And then Kate finally got a lead role in a show that hit #1 in December. So all the stars are aligning right before the big announcement came. And I'll never forget the night that I told her, because the studio was getting really really kind of frustrated about waiting so long for her network to do this deal. And they told me, you gotta tell her. You gotta tell her the truth, that that this Dreamwalker's gonna be a show and she's a star. But I said, yeah, but we're gonna break protocol. He goes, no, you like Mikhail Red can't wait any longer. Because they have him signed and he's got to start filming at this date right here. We can't stall this any longer. So tell her, and then she'll light a fire under them. Like, okay. So one night I said, hey, we gotta talk. Then, I mean, she was floored. Like, we were Zoom calling at like 3 or 4 hours, man. It was just like she was crying, she was ecstatic. I mean, she couldn't believe what was going on. Within a day or two, we closed the deal.
Which is, dude, that's, congratulations. That's just...
It's like the most beautiful story. It's like,
well,
wow.
Another weird part is that, Robert, before I got the option, I had the idea of doing a photo session with her for the comic book where she would appear as herself on the cover. Like, not illustration, but actual photo. And again, the scheduling took forever, right? The day that the photo shoot was scheduled to drop was 2 days after I had told her the news. So she went into that photo session knowing she got the lead role already. So you can tell she was really in it in that photo session, like almost like an audition, like almost like like pre-production almost. And the photographers had no idea that she was going to star in a show based on this character. She was dressed as a character. My artist was there helping with the choreography and everything. And the people there had no idea that, within a few days, the news was going to drop in Variety that she had a show. And just amazing,
Incredible.
Zod, you want to show that picture I showed you today?
Oh yeah, let me.
I sent you the one with the group photo first.
Send me a couple, so let me see if I can get this here. Hold on a second.
But and also, Robert, it's another weird coincidence here. The first TV network I ever remember seeing as a kid was the network that she's on.
That's yeah. I mean, that's just incredible. So, do you know what are they going to fast track this into production, or a script has to be written? Where are you at now in the whole
right
experience?
Now, they are finishing the story Vilo right now. Okay, so this is 108 Media, and that's Kay Valdez in the middle there. They flew to Manila to finally meet her in person today. So just great seeing everybody together like that, and I was just thinking about, I brought all these people together from a million miles away. They're there.
It's incredible
because of my comic book. I mean, it just blows me away. So when we were talking over the summer, they said, Mikey, you've only got 2 issues written. The first season is 8 episodes, right? It's going to adapt the first 6 issues. We're probably going to have to Game of Thrones this, and you're going to be George R. Martin,
Yep.
And there's the cover of issue 3, which is her, with some Photoshop by Noel Leon Flores there. But yeah, it's the cover. And Zod, your first appearance is in this issue.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to my first appearance. I'm so excited too. This is going to be wonderful to be a comic book character and to have such an in-depth, all the things you've been telling me about all your ideas for the character. I'm so excited. It's incredible.
So I sent them an outline of the first 6 issues, which Noel was asking for anyway, so I already had it ready. And they're gonna Game of Thrones it because I am not that far ahead. I just finished issue 3 script, and they'll get that one, but they're gonna work with me on this. But they want to stay as faithful to the comic book as possible. But it's just a really interesting situation because I can't write that fast. I'm just slow.
That's what Noel Leon Flores keeps saying every time he snarkily comments under all of Mikey's stuff. It's like, finish the story, Mikey. Finish the story. That's what my cousin keeps telling me.
Just like George R. R. Martin.
Yeah,
my cousin keeps doing the same thing to me, sending me DMs. Finish the book, Joseph. Finish the book.
Well, now Now hang on, Joseph. Joseph, should I call you? I like saying Zod.
I think Zod's better.
Zod, that's better.
But now hang on a second. I know that the viewers who are watching this know about the book, but I've only been following the book based on your posts.
Yeah,
I knew you were writing the book, and then suddenly you were depressed and about you're gonna like not write the book. By the way, Tim's Talk asks my thoughts on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
the TV
that's why
show.
I held it. That's why I was holding the.
I don't think it was overrated. I mean, it's so funny to me. Like if you, I think she's great, and if you listen, like she didn't have a choreographer work with her Wednesday dance. The fact that she watched goth music like Susie Sue and looked at those things and came up with that on her own, I'm like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked Wednesday. I mean, I didn't love it, but I liked it. It was good. A lot of people are like, this isn't the Addams Family or whatever. I'm like, okay, it was fine. But I liked the show, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Her dance, it was funny, and the fact that there's girls doing it underwater. I mean, anything that captures a zeitgeist moment. Now zeitgeist moments last for 5 seconds, but I mean, I still think that was cool.
Well, I think it was cool they pulled the Cramps out of obscurity and put them on the
and that song.
Awesome.
I mean, I love the Cramps. I mean, it's so funny to me. Like, the LA punk scene. I'm from Seattle, so the LA punk scene. I wasn't much aware of it. I remember seeing Repo Man. I think it was 84.
Yeah,
and getting that soundtrack, and that soundtrack was so, people try and pick up girls. We call them assholes. This did not happen to Pablo Picasso. Why, he could walk down the street and girls could not resist his stare. Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole. I remember listening to that song and going, why did I just sing that on your show? I'm so sorry. But I love that. I mean, I loved the Repo Man soundtrack, and that whole LA punk scene and the Cramps, the Germs. I mean, all that, those bands, and the fact that she knew that song, or at least she said she did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting to me that now we live in a world where, I mean, I love music, but there's no good music being made on a. I mean, pardon me. Let me amend this. There's lots of good music being made, but it's all fragmented. Everyone's making it in their garage in like Arkansas or something, and you have to find it.
MIDI music.
But I mean, there's so. I mean, music used to be the force that made youth. Like, I remember my friend Mark Elfendahl, we'd go in junior high school, we'd go to his house and play pool and listen to Pink Floyd records.
Mm-hmm.
Like, today we're going to listen to Umaguma, and we listen to the whole thing, and then we're going to listen to Animals, and play pool and like talk about the music, man. And who does that anymore? I mean, and
you're right.
And everyone listened to, so music was emotion bottled into a 3-minute song.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, girls have Taylor Swift, but what do we have? What do dudes have? We got nothing. We got Jordan Peterson. I have nothing against Professor Peterson. I read 12 Rules of Life and all that. It's fine. He's a clear thinker and all that. I get what he was saying, but we don't have the cult, man. We don't have Ian Astbury. We don't have Billy Duffy. We don't have the first album. The first song on Love is Rain. Down, 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 down. Just hearing that guitar riff. I mean, that guitar riff is what got us off. It's like, fuck yeah, dude. We don't. Who plays guitar anymore? I mean, it's like we all wanted to play guitar. Yeah. Even everybody wanted to be a fucking guitar god. That's what we want. And nowadays, I'm like, I don't feel that way. Like, do dudes still want that? Who play? Other than there's a YouTuber who loves the bass, Davey, And he if you've seen Davey, he's an Italian bassist. He's got 10 million YouTube subscribers, and he loves the bass, and he's a phenomenal bass player. But I'm like, why aren't you in a band? He's like, slappers. He's got a YouTube channel, and I'm like, I want to see you shred on stage, bro. I want to where's? I mean, we have what's the band that sounds like Led Zeppelin. The young guys that
are they a tribute band?
No. They're a great band. They actually are really good, and they sound like Zeppelin. And why am I drawing a blank on their name? Somebody in the chat must know. But God, why am I drawing a blank on their name? But it's like, where are the young guitar gods? Where are the young metal bands? Greta Van Fleet, yes. Lahal Kokol knows. Greta Van Fleet sound great. When I first heard them, I'm like, even though they sound like Led Zeppelin, I'm like, great, the kids are listening to Zeppelin. Where are the new young? I mean, I'm not talking about the Jonas Brothers, and they're great musicians. No offense, they put on a good show, and they've married beautiful women. Good for them. Well done. The woman who runs the North remembers, and you're married to her. That's awesome. But it's like, where is the galvanizing music that we had? Yeah. Where is it? Like I don't know, man. I mean, where and what? And the thing was, music. I mean, it wasn't the music. It was the emotion in the music. It was how rock and rollers could speak to us and talk about. Well, I'm an old fuck now, about to die, but when I was younger, it was like we wanted people through their art to speak to us, whether it was comics, whether it was rape revenge.
As you're talking about dying.
Well, I mean, it was like where are the young people that play music? Where are the people that could shred on a guitar? And I'm like, it's so weird to me because, when you're a teenager, the coolest dude in the room could pick up a guitar and play and sing. I mean, there was nothing better. And that guy, like, who plays anymore? It's so weird to me. I mean, I guess I could be an Instagram rapper.
That's a good question because, being a teenager in the 80s, I mean, like, Johnny Marr was like one of my heroes from the Smiths,
Yeah, of course.
Peter Hook of Joy Division.
Oh, dude, and Peter Hook, in New Order, the low slung bass player.
That
right? I gotta say, right here is my I got Hendrix, I got Bowie, I got Prince.
Yeah.
I've got, of course, our favorite Queen. I mean, come on, Freddie Mercury. Fuck yeah, right here. I got John Lennon and Elvis. I need a bass player. I'm getting Kurt Cobain, but I need if I could get any 6-scale bass player, it would be Peter Hook.
Oh yeah,
and he'd have his bass almost touching the ground. Do. New Order.
Mikey, could you tell Robert your Kurt Cobain story? Because
God, I actually which one? I know what you're talking about though. Robert, I was given invitation to see Nirvana in Tacoma. In '88.
Tacoma, where my grandfather's furniture store was.
Yeah, Community World Theater, was their first gig as Nirvana. And I turned it down.
Bro.
I had homework and,
Dude, I went to Evergreen.
Oh my God, you were there, Evergreen? Jesus.
Dude, I was at Evergreen from 85 to 88.
That's when Bruce Pavitt was there.
Yeah, and you know what? Nirvana played there when I was there. A girl in my class managed the band because they were in Aberdeen, which is right down the street.
Yeah.
Well, not down the street, but, down the road. Yeah, dude, I went to Evergreen before I went to USC.
Wow. Yeah, so I could have interviewed them as well for the Rocket. Remember the Rocket? I could have.
Dude, you wrote for the Rocket?
Almost. I was given a assignment to interview them, but I didn't have a car.
Now, where did you grow up in that area?
In Tacoma.
Oh, you were. So, do you remember a store called Schoenfeld's Furniture?
No, I don't remember that one.
It was It was my grandfather's furniture store. It was a family business. It was a 10-story. I guess. He retired and they sold the building. I guess it would have been around then, but I mean, like I saw my first Prince concert was at the Tacoma Dome. It was Purple Rain.
Wow.
I saw Bowie. I saw the Glass Spider tour in the Tacoma Dome, and I saw Springsteen in the Tacoma Dome. 4-hour show.
He had some controversial statements at that time about the stench of Tacoma.
Yeah, I mean, well, so for those of you who don't know, Tacoma is a city about 50 minutes outside of Seattle that was known for its paper mills, and it stunk.
We got Belle Reeve Mendez here asking a question. What do y'all think of what is he saying here? Kurt Cobain's
memorial in Aberdeen.
Memorial in Aberdeen, yeah.
You know, I haven't seen his memorial in Aberdeen. The last time I actually went to Aberdeen, I shot a music video there when I was but that was 35 years ago.
Oh my God.
I mean, I haven't been here's a terrible thing. I'm from Mercer Island. Nowadays, Mercer Island is I'll explain. So I'm from Mercer Island, which is an island in the middle of Lake Washington. Here's all you need to know. My parents bought their house, my house that I grew up in on Mercer Island, in 1964 for $30,000. My mom sold that house in 1988 when I was off in college for $160,000. The people that bought it in 1988 still own that house. It is now 2023, and the very same house that my parents bought for $30,000 is now worth $2.3 million.
Wow.
I could not, my hometown, Mercer Island, Washington, that I lived in for 21 years, and to actually... I lived there. Yeah, I lived there until 3 weeks after my 21st birthday when I packed up everything I owned and moved to California. I could not live in the house that I grew up in. I could never afford to live there. And so for those of you, I mean, everyone's like, oh, I lose credibility, but I just want you to know that I'm an old school Mercer Islander, so not a
I've been there, and the housing market here, it's through the roof because people work at Amazon, things like that.
Oh, it's insane. People I went to high school with, you know, generational wealth. No, anyone who was out. My mother, I mean, God bless her. The dumbest thing she ever did was sell our house on Mercer Island, and my grandparents' house when my grandfather passed away. He had a house in Madison Park. Same deal. We owned it outright. I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to sell it. I said, Mom, don't sell it. It's worth millions of dollars now. I mean, it's like my mom, whatever. That's why I'm on YouTube.
I should have invested in housing property back in 2007 when I had the money. I could have done it, but I just didn't.
We're all saying that now, really, with the way things are. And Marcus Cruz has an MCU question for both of you, very, very knowledgeable individuals here. The rumor is that John Krasinski is returning as Reed Richards for the Fantastic Four movie. Scoopers have come out and said, yep. What do you guys think?
I don't buy it. Look, John Krasinski already played Reed Richards in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And here's the thing. I would love to see him and Emily Blunt play Reed Richards and Sue Storm. I would, but John Krasinski wants to direct. He wants it. He doesn't want to. He's not. Here's the great thing: the Sarah Finn, who casts the MCU, does a bang up job.
Yeah.
You if nothing else, look, I'm a huge MCU fan. Not lately. Like, I mean, I hate
not lately at all.
But it's not because it's not because of what a lot of YouTubers like. Here's my theory, my unified field theory of superhero movies. What we want, what fans of superhero movies want, and this is what the MCU did brilliantly through phase 1, 2, and 3 is we want to believe that there are superheroes in our world. So when you make a movie, Iron Man 1, the very first Iron Man movie, the first MCU movie, is a perfect example of this because that movie introduces us to Tony Stark, going through Afghanistan. Don't throw gang signs. He's in the back. He's dressed in a coat and tie. He's us. He's what we want to be. Rich baller dude. And he becomes a superhero. He's all of us, but it's set in the real world. It really comes down to one character, one man having a crisis of conscience and deciding that when a Stark Industries weapon doesn't detonate right next to him, he realizes he could have died by his own hand. And so the entirety of Iron Man 1 is about one man developing a conscience and changing. And yeah, he ends up fighting Obadiah Stane and Ironmonger and all that, and it's fine. But it's two guys beating the shit out of each other in Iron Man armor over a company. I mean, it's a very personal. It's a very personal story, and why Iron Man 1 is so great is it's like all the great. It's like Back to the Future. It's like The Last Starfighter. It's like Star Wars. It has one guy that we like that has a transformation of his character, and it's set like even though it's in Malibu and he's rich, he's got a jet and all that. You believe it. It's set in our world. And the reason we all love it is because we all identify with it. Tony Stark's got a hot car, a hot Audi, but he's driving on roads we can drive on. So we buy into it. What's happened with the Marvels, and even if you look at Infinity War, and I'm a huge supporter of Infinity War and Endgame as a one long 5-hour extravaganza. The moment in the Sanctum Sanctorum where Mark Ruffalo falls in there and you got Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Wong, Hulk, and they end up talking about Ben and Jerry's ice cream and Thanos. I mean, you're like, okay, and then some shit goes down and everyone walks out in the street. And you've got Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Hulk, and then there's Ebony Maw going this. It's so great because it's what fantasy is all about. We're on the streets of New York, and there's a giant fucking spaceship, and then cut to Spider-Man on a school bus, and he's like, you see his spider sense come up. It's in the real world. All of it's in the real world. You're in New York. He's on a school bus. He has to leave. He's like, hey, man, make a distraction. He lights out off the... it's all... The problem with Marvel now, you can't buy into any of it because there's no reality. It's all fantasy. Love and Thunder, I want to blow my brains out. Wakanda Forever, I appreciate a lot of it. It's all fantasy realm. There's nothing real in it. Quantumania, I'm still waiting for someone to be like, what's going on with the Celestial in the Indian Ocean, man? There's
what happened with that Eternals movie? I mean, my God, they were onto something, and they.
By the way, I am an Eternals apologist. I love that movie.
Yeah, but...
and by the way, it was the #1 MCU stream film in 2022. But here's the problem. The MCU is spun off. I felt this way when I watched Loki. I'm like, you guys went way too far. The TVA, what go look at Iron Man 1. And even what's funny to me is even Captain America, the First Avenger, the stuff, it's Steve Rogers is an ordinary dude, even though it's got Bucky and it's got the Expo. Marvel has made, look, I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight's one of my favorite characters. They decided to take the exact wrong era of Moon Knight. And they're like, I'm sure, and I hate to say this, you know what? We can deal with mental illness. No one wants to see that. I'm like, I want the romantic 1940s film noir, Bill Sienkiewicz, Doug Mensch Moon Knight from issue 1 through 30. You get Werewolf by Night. You get Daredevil.
Werewolf by Night is the best thing they did.
Dude, really. It is. And that was, Moon Knight was in fucking Werewolf by Night. It's like, that's where Moon Knight came from.
Right.
And I'm like, you turn Moon Knight in there. You don't even give us Moon Knight. You give us a crazy character, and you're more interested in Egyptian gods
and
eating souls and
Oscar Isaac being a weirdo. That's basically what it was.
Look, give me Moon Knight. I get it. Rip off of Batman, but you know what? It's the romantic noir rip off of Batman. It's 1940s film noir. Batman was never. They wanted it to be that way, but Moon Knight was actually that way. And when they went that way, I was so pissed. I was like, I'm watching this. I love Moon Knight. And I wanted to see a guy who I wanted to see Jake Lockley, the cab driver, who is Mark Spector, who's a cab driver, to figure out what's going on in the streets of New York. And I was so disappointed by what they did. They took ladder. The problem with Moon Knight was he was really only good in 30 issues of a comic book back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Moon Knight has never been good after that.
Mikey can relate.
I can relate, yeah.
For real.
I'm telling you.
Sienkiewicz run. Oh
it's mentioned Sienkiewicz, and I'll tell you, then they tried. Moon Knight is a character that everybody who ever wrote him tried to change him.
Yeah.
That's all they ever did. And then they're like, what if, Moon Knight has all these alter egos? What if he's schizophrenic? And
he was like in that M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, he split.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking the whole time I was watching Moon Knight.
And the problem with that is that means there's not really a Moon Knight.
Right.
It's just somebody who's mentally ill. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, the whole thing about the Doug Mensch Sienkiewicz run is that when Mark Spector wakes up in the tomb and there's Khonshu there, he ascribes meaning to Khonshu because he's in the thing. It doesn't mean Khonshu's a real entity, and in the MCU he's become a real entity. When I'm watching two giant Egyptian kaijus fight each other on the pyramids of Giza, and they're literally eating the souls of people in the streets of Cairo, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what am I watching? It wasn't. It was like, I liked the way Moon Knight looked, but even Moon Knight wasn't. He didn't even know he was Moon Knight. There's no agency there. It's so. God, it pissed me off.
And we have
Lau Coco says, I want to see Moon Knight versus Bushman. Yeah, Mark Spector was a fucking mercenary working in Africa. I wanted to see that. Make it give us something. It's why Tim only 20, 40. Come on, man. It doesn't matter how many people are here. We love each other. Come on.
It's beautiful. It's a party today.
That's right.
So Mikey, what's your take on the whole John Krasinski thing? Do you agree with Rob, or have you been hearing some other things?
I'm hearing conflicting reports. So I was on Sil Abdul's channel the other day, and somebody asked me about Krasinski, and I said initially my sources were telling me that you gotta let people know Krasinski's out. He's not in this thing. And then a few days later, I heard from an insider says, "Can you hold off on that?" I'm being so definite about that, but what I was told originally that Matt Shackman was going to go for a different actor as Reed Richards, and then all of a sudden, a source told me, "We'll hold off on." So I don't know where it's at right now. Possible. I mean, what I was told though is that Reed will have a kid. They're gonna have Franklin Richards in the film.
Oh wow!
So he's not gonna be someone in their 20s.
Because they need somebody for more young Avengers fodder.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's incredible to me because that's how I was with Marvel with Phase 1. I really, really enjoyed, and it just seemed to me as it went on, it got less and less like Rob was talking about, where it got less and less about telling these great stories in our world and just became complete fantasy. And then by that time you're checked out because you can't relate to it anymore. Where I'm sitting now is I'm just hoping that they go back, that they backtrack a little bit. And again, for me, one of the best things I've seen from modern, most recent MCU stuff was Werewolf by Night. I absolutely love that. I was like, it was short, it was very, it captured the essence of that, and it was allowed to do its own thing, and I just thought that was amazing.
Well, yeah, what
agree.
Robert was saying reminded me of what Stan Lee's philosophy was, that these characters took place in our world. That it wasn't Gotham City, it was New York City.
Yes.
And I think that's what Robert is bringing across was Stan Lee's original idea of, let's not have Metropolis, let's have L.A. You know what I mean? They exist in our world.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's what people are talking about. Look, I loved the whole Infinity saga. I loved it. I mean, I it was amazing to see it, and for the most part, I mean, even the movies that it's so funny to me. If you go back and you watch like Iron Man 2 and Thor: The Dark World, people are like, oh, those movies sucked. They really didn't suck.
I actually liked The Dark World. I thought it was okay.
Well, here's the thing. They are okay. They're way better than okay. But they might not be up at the time. People forget. I mean, where are you at? Iron Man 2 is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got, Justin Hammer and Mickey Rourke. It's kind of a crazy but it's not compared to a lot of other things, it's not bad. Mm-hmm. And early on, I mean, so the reputation that it has, I think, is wholly undeserved. And it because it's a lot of fun. You go back and watch. You think about it: 23 movies with an average box office gross of $1 billion each. If you divide 23 movies by their entire box office. That's astonishing. I mean,
that's single-handedly the entire movie industry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's by far the most. And what's funny was all those movies did was bring joy to people. I watched Infinity War with John Schnepp at the El Capitan in Hollywood. My God, it was all jaded industry pundits. People were on their feet screaming. I saw Endgame on the Disney lot press screening. People loved it. I mean, it was punch holes in the plot all you want, whatever. Watching that movie, it took you through so many different emotions. It was it's Infinity War and Endgame are 5 hours of sheer fantasy comic book bliss. I mean, really, they're unimpeachable, unassailable, great entertainments. And my God, do they stick that landing.
And shout out to Retro Nerd Girl in the chat. Love Retro Nerd Girl. She says,
I love her too.
Werewolf by Night was awesome. I really want to see more stories like that, even if it's not connected to a comic book franchise. I couldn't agree more. I mean, Werewolf by Night. You know what I was thinking of, Mikey and Robert? I was thinking of like an old weathered VHS tape.
Oh yeah,
with the tracking being, filtering speckles filtering through. I was thinking, could you imagine like a VHS copy of Werewolf by Night with a great big clamshell VHS case?
Oh yeah, man.
I was like, if they did something like that, that would be an awesome collector's item for Werewolf by Night.
With a Be Kind Rewind sticker on it.
The Be Kind Rewind sticker from the rental store. I mean, wow. It's just, to me, that was the one that just like blew me away. I was like, I couldn't believe they put that on Disney Plus. I was like, that should have been something that but when they used to do like little stories before a movie, like you'd watch a film and before you'd see the film, you'd see like a short, and that should have been something that Marvel did, because that was destined to be in theater. Wow.
Speaking of Werewolf by Night, is everybody talks about, it's a tribute to the black and white monster movies.
Yes.
What they forget is that back in the 70s, Marvel had a bunch of black and white monster magazines. That's what I was thinking of. It's like a Vampire Lives, or one of those, those Marvel black and white magazines come to life. That's what I thought of.
And Noel Leon Flores says these are issues that really arise with an expanding universe. As the universe expands, so will the number of targeted audiences. Yeah. There you go.
That's true, but I think that I think one of the things that Marvel has done is they needed to keep it grounded. And they've spun off into Fantasyland. I mean, I think that the multiverse was the wrong way to go.
For Marvel, I think. I think DC is more of a multiversal film. Marvel, I agree with you 100% with Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I grew up as a DC kid. Yeah, my when I was a little kid, my favorite thing in the world is once a year the JSA and the JLA would team up.
Yep, the summer event. Yeah,
that was and every year. And one of the favorite comics I ever bought was I started buying Justice League in like the late 90s, not 1990s, late 90s of the first volume of Justice League. And I remember getting Justice League giant size 100-page Justice League 114, and that giant size Justice League had the Gardner Fox Crime Syndicate Earth 3 stories with Ultraman and Power Ring and the Crime Syndicate, the evil Justice League on Earth 3, and that blew my mind, and I love that.
And here's a question I have for both of you.
Yeah.
Tim's talk is making a point here. Says now, if you don't hit $1 billion, everyone thinks the movie loses money. Have you noticed? Has you guys noticed this philosophy? And isn't this the philosophy that's ruining cinema essentially? Because
what people don't, people have and this is not a criticism. It's like, why would they know this? It's all about how much a movie costs to make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, so quickly, so let's say that a movie costs, just as an example, $50 million to make. Okay? So if a movie costs $50 million, let's assume it costs $50 million to market as well. Twice as much as it costs to make. So you're now $100 million that you've spent. Now remember, that money is borrowed. It's borrowed from a bank, from a line of credit. So the money you've borrowed, that's accruing interest. Now you're also a studio, so you have to pay for the overhead. The studio, everything that goes on in the studio is part of that, making that movie, whether it is or not. But the studio itself might have another $100 million of overhead for the year. Well, they charge that overhead to each production, rightly or wrongly. So now you're $200 million, and the studio overhead's different. I mean, but let's just assume we're $200 million into a $50 million movie. All right? Marketing or whatever. So then you put it out in theaters. That movie has to make 3 to 4 times more than it costs to break even. So our break even on a movie that is now $200 million is now $800 million. And of that, the reason that break even is $800 million is the studio only gets half of that. So of $800 million, they get $400 million, and they have to pay it out across all the people that spent money on that film. So the profitability is not like, you might make a movie that grosses $800 million, and the studio might only show a profit of $50 million or whatever. Now, it seems like a small profit on an $800 million spend. But if you look at it from a percentage basis, that's not bad. A $50 million profit on what is ultimately costs $800 million, that's not bad. You get your money back and you make a $50 million profit. So movie making, and also the problem is no one tells the truth in terms of profits. And so, I mean, it really is a shitty business because everyone is lying.
Yeah, just ask WBD. They're very, very good at that. Very good.
And unfortunately, it's become a huge problem. If like with everything else, I am a capitalist through and through. The problem with capitalism, it's probably the best system of government, best economic system of all time. The problem is everyone wants to subvert it and cheat the system. And if that's all you're doing, then capitalism looks like it's evil. But it's not. It's the people cheating the system that are evil and ruining what is a great economic system. Far better than collectivism or communism. But everyone's like, oh my God, we're going to be collective. No, you're just lazy. You don't want to have to pay for it. I mean, ultimately, I have to say collectivism, all the people, it's like, give me a break. You just don't want to work hard. You know, Mikey made his comic book. That's why he's doing a TV show now. You guys would be like, collectivists, like, well, you know, Mikey should make his comic book available to all of us. We should all share in the work that Mikey's done because, you know, it's a commune. It's part of the community. And fuck you. And your collectivist bullshit. If you didn't add something to the community, you don't get something from the community.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. You got to put in the work. I agree.
And that's the thing. I feel like today it's like going on TikTok and making a 30-second video is not going to get
30-second video eating a taco. Yeah, and that's
and it's not even the kind of like tacos I'd like to eat in the movies I was in.
Exactly right.
You know, the old adage: if God didn't want you to eat it, He wouldn't have made it look like a taco. You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Oh wait, what am I saying?
Amen. Amen. I couldn't agree more. And you know what?
Right?
That's exactly, you know, and that's exactly the problem with some people. They'll come out, they'll attack people, they'll make statements, and it'll be completely untrue. But when you challenge them for what they've actually done, you find out that they've done nothing, and all they do is enjoy trolling others. It's horrible.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to point out, Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage, is now live on Paramount Plus.
Absolutely, and it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Again, Robert, your Star Trek fandom and my Star Trek fandom are one and the same. So when you said what you said I was seeing all this bad press about Picard Season 3, and I was watching Doomcock's videos because I watch Doomcock for entertainment.
Look, here's the thing.
And hey,
I like Doomcock. And everyone's like, oh, you guys are at war. I'm like, no, I got mad. I got mad when Doomcock was calling other fans names. Because, you know, he's always, and that was where I drew a line. My line in the sand was like, I'm like, bro, you know, we have to support fandom. And just because some fans like something you might not like, if you're attacking other fans, you've crossed a line. And the whole point is, like, my own YouTube channel is all about all of us. We all have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. And we're all part of the same community. You might hate this or love this or whatever. But if you're going after other fans, your own audience that might like something. And you know what's here's a funny thing. When it comes to Doomcock, I'm with him. I want to see great stories well told.
Exactly.
We have fraudulent creators that utilize these IPs. They have no love for them. Alex Kurtzman doesn't give a fuck about Star Trek. Does not care. But it's very lucrative to be making 5 Star Trek shows.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to do with Star Trek Picard Season 3. He went off and made his own Man Who Fell to Earth sequel. And then Akiva Goldsman went off and did Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So there was a void there that Terry Matalas, who is a great guy, great creator. If you watch 12 Monkeys, they did a phenomenal job making a TV series out of that movie. Mm-hmm. And really good. And he brought everything he knew to bear on Star Trek Picard Season 3. And there's one thing I can't talk about yet because it hasn't happened, but it's a very small, subtle thing. And when I first saw it, I'm like, I love this guy because it was a big fuck you to modern Star Trek. Because modern Star Trek is terrible. It's terrible. It's being written by people that want to bring their own. First of all, Star Trek is about the future. So it's allegorical. If you want to bring your modern day politics, a Stacey Abrams who lost her bid to be the Georgia governor, you make her president of the Federation. Regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, Stacey Abrams is a political figure who's already lost. And to make her a president of the future Federation means you've made your show irrelevant today.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Why would you do that? Bringing on a political figure to be, she's going to be president of the Federation. No, she's never going to be. She wasn't even governor of Georgia.
It just dates the show. Is all
it's done.
Does.
It dates the show. It's so bad. It's so stupid. I mean, the third season of Star Trek brought in Melvin Belli, a San Francisco lawyer, as Gorgon, the friendly angel. When was the last time you saw an action figure of him? You know what? Never.
They might as
you
well.
Never did.
They might as well let Alex Kurtzman bring back Manimal. What do you guys think?
Or why not do the Manimal Automan Power Hour?
I read something the other day, and this tripped me out. I read the other day, because there's all this controversy surrounding James Gunn, as you two gentlemen know. And I went and I was reading this article that James Gunn wants to make a modern revival of Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff. And I was reading this and I was thinking to myself, my God, how many franchises does this dude want to come in and mess with? I mean, he's over here. He's like, okay, good. I'm gonna do this to DC. I got I'm trolling DC fans while I'm over here promoting my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And while I'm at it, I might as well, mess with Knight Rider and ruins people's childhoods too.
Well, he was trying to do Starsky and Hutch for a while there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something about James Gunn. James Gunn is one of us. He's fucking with everybody. Like, here's the thing.
Yeah, he's like a troll.
James Gunn knows. He's writing what is going to be probably the most classic, heartfelt Superman movie ever. He will. He's not going to do the Suicide Squad. He's not going to do Peacemaker version of Superman. He's going to write the ultimate version of Superman because he's the only person who's ever worked at DC that is a fanatical geek and comic book fan. And everyone's looking at him going, well, he can only do Slither or Super or the Guardian. No. What James Gunn wants to do is he wants to make the most classical version of Superman we've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's what he's writing. And I only say that because I work with James Gunn. I worked with him a long time ago on a movie called The Specials that he wrote that Craig Mazin, who co-created the new Last of Us TV series in Chernobyl, he directed it. And James, they didn't get along very well. But James Gunn he does not want to make the Peacemaker version of Superman. What he wants to make is the ultimate. If anything, James Gunn would want to make the Max Fleischer 1940s Superman animated.
Why doesn't he do that? Make Superman. And I had this idea a while ago myself, was thinking, why not make a Superman movie as a period piece in the Depression era?
I think that might be an Elseworlds tale, but you know what I think James Gunn looks to? Something like the graphic novel is Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, I love that graphic
novel.
Dude,
it's a
beautiful novel.
I have said, if someone, because people have asked me, Rob, if you could make the whatever Superman movie you want to make, I would make a Superman for All Seasons. And I would spring, summer, winter, fall.
I think I still have that hardcover somewhere.
Dude, it's so, because it deals with all the classic, and people are like, well, people wouldn't understand the giant key and the fortress. Yes, they would. You could do all 4 of those stories. And like Frank Darabont, like Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, Frank Darabont, if he was given that Superman movie, or Spielberg, give Spielberg the Superman for All Seasons movie. The problem is, the 4 stories, a lot of people might not get it, but it could be the most heartfelt, emotional. It would literally be the Shawshank Redemption of superhero movies in terms of how it makes you feel. A Superman for All Seasons is the most uplifting.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
That's the Superman movie they should make.
I don't know. I'd still like to see, if they were going to do Superman for All Seasons, I'd love to see Henry Cavill as Superman. Still.
Oh yeah, you know how you do? You make Red Sun.
There you go.
And Henry Cavill's the Red Sun Superman.
Hey guys, I gotta get going. I gotta do some articles for Yukasi tomorrow.
I do too. We should go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys,
Robert.
we should wrap this up then.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do this again because I still have
This
plenty
is so
of
much
stuff
fun.
I want to talk to you guys about. It's always fun, and we just get carried away in it. This is fantastic. But yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah.
Should do it every week.
Let's do
Why
that.
not?
I'd be down. Why not?
I'm down with it. That'd be awesome.
Thursday night. Well, now it's Thursday. Wednesday night party on the ZodWriters channel.
We should do it. That'd be incredible.
We will never run out of material because we have.
Would you guys be down for something like that? I mean, I'm seriously asking. I would do that.
I'm down.
Thursday,
Why not?
Wednesday nights at this time, same time as usual.
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't even scratched the surface of all the stuff that we've seen the past few decades.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about, and we still got plenty to talk about. And I'm sure, Mikey, you got some more Dreamwalker stories. And Rob, you've always got stories. We could keep going.
We haven't talked about Herschel Gordon Lewis yet.
Oh my God, who I rode in a limo with.
What? No way. Oh my God,
dude. Yeah. So actually, I didn't. To be honest, Dave Parker actually ended up riding in the limo. I just sat in the limo. So when we made a movie called The Hills Run Red, and it was at Sigis.
Great movie, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Dave Parker directed it. Dave Scow wrote it. I produced it, and it had its. We showed it in Sigis, and here's the best part. It played on a double bill with a movie that Herschel Gordon Lewis and was in, and we ended up hanging out with him at the hotel before we went to see the movie, and we were all going to be the same. There wasn't enough room in the limo, and I said to Dave Parker, the director, I'm like, dude, come on, you got to go. But I got out, and he went in the limo. But he was the nicest man. The godfather of gore was the nicest man in the world.
Yeah, I rented Blood Feast in the summer of '83. My family, I watched it like 4 times over that weekend.
It's the greatest thing ever.
Last thing I have to do before we end the stream is promote Dreamwalker as always. Go to secondskincomics.com, right?
Thank
Second
you.
Skin to get your copies. Dreamwalker issue 3 will be coming soon.
You get the
pre-order.
rare one.
And this is the rare cover. This is the the one that everybody wants.
Robert, I still have your physical copies. You're actually in the thank you page of issue 1.
I want to, Mikey. First of all, I'm so proud of you, man.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. I mean, after everything you had to go through personally, and you got your work, you're continuing to kick ass, which is great. I mean, and how cool is it? This whole thing, hearing your story, it's amazing.
It's gonna be great. We're gonna do this again next week. Oh my God! I'll set it up. We'll do it weekly.
I'm committed.
Why not?
Honestly, if you guys want, I'm down. I'm serious. Next week.
Hey, what's great about doing this show now is like we go off this stream before I go to bed. I get to watch Star Trek Picard season 3 episode 2.
That's right.
Disengage.
One more.
By the way,
for you, Robert, before you go, how is Tango Shalom doing?
Okay. Here's the crazy thing. So a couple days on Monday on the John Campea show, someone writes in and goes, "Hey Rob, I just watched Tango Shalom on the Latin streaming service VIX in Spanish, and the translation's great."
Awesome.
I didn't know it was fucking on. I didn't know it had been translated into Spanish. And I'm like, and I looked into it. I'm like, called the distributor. I'm like, this is one of the biggest Latino or Spanish language streaming services in the world. How'd it get on there? And they're like, yeah, we're that good. I'm like, oh my God. And it was translated it was dubbed in Spanish. I didn't even know it. I mean, it's going to be in Germany. It's so weird when you make these little low-budget movies. You never know. Like Mikey will tell you, you make a comic book, and then one day you're making a whole series in the Philippines with this hot actress you've always wanted to work with, and suddenly you are.
Well, yeah, and originally I was just story consultant, and then I found out through Variety that I'm executive producer. I'm like, what?
Yep. Well, there you go.
You found that out through Variety?
Yeah. Through Variety.
You know what's great, Mikey? We got to set up your second project. I'll help you with that. Let's just go set up. Well, the three of us. Let's go set up another project.
There you
before it doesn't even. That's how it works. You're already in the business, so you're an EP on a huge show. It was in deadline.
I'm glad you're here, Robert. I can finally announce that there's a cameo from you in issue 3 as well.
Oh my God!
You're in this restaurant scene that I'm gonna have Noel draw you in.
Draw me in.
Yep.
And without a rebel flight suit and a porn stash.
hey, I'm down. This is fantastic, you guys. I love this. I've had so much fun on this stream. This has just been amazing, you guys. I mean, Rob,
I love this.
Rob, you're in Dreamwalker too. Isn't that amazing,
dude? I just love the fact that you and I, Zod, we can go to conventions now and sign as people, and we have our panels from Dreamwalker, and sign that. We'll blow them up and make posters. We can sign together. When Mikey's like, he'll be like, "Well, guys, I mean, I'm making season 4 right now. I mean, I don't know if I can. I mean, if you want to sign in San Diego in the Flag Pavilion, that might be cool. Maybe I'll show up."
Remember something, Robert? We're actually going to meet up. I'm not sure if you're going to make it or not. We're going to go to the Washington State Summer Con on June 23 to 25th. If you want to fly over here, it'd be great to meet you in person.
Well, I would. Here's the thing. I have never been invited or like. I grew up in Seattle. I went to so many cons. The Emerald City Comic Con. I mean, I've been speaking at San Diego since 1994. We've been doing Starship Smackdown for 20 years. We have a Comic-Con panel that had an NPR story. No one from the Emerald City Comic Con has ever reached out to me.
That's crazy.
I know. I mean, Hills Run Red had its world premiere at the Seattle International Film Festival. I'll tell you something. No one. You know what the thing about Seattle is? They don't like people who do anything. They don't want real success.
There you go.
Well, that's why you're so successful, because they encourage.
They don't like Seattle. If someone came to the city council and said, "Hey man, we want to move this Space Needle to Bellevue," they're like, "Well, how much you want to pay?" And they're like, "Well, $5 billion or whatever." And they're like, "Okay." They would do that. The Seattle City Council would sell the Space Needle to Bellevue.
Well, they sold their Sonic, so there you go.
I know. I mean, it's my hometown. At least Golden Age Collectibles is still, almost 50 years later, still at the Pike Place Market.
Yeah, I love that place.
I know, right? It's still there. I waited in line for Empire Strikes Back the entire summer of 1980, and we would go to Golden Age Collectibles every Saturday morning from when they opened, and it's still there.
You just reminded me we should talk about this next Wednesday. I saw Star Wars opening day, May 25th, 77 at the Century Theater in Sacramento, California. We were in the few theaters that had.
There's actually a movie out, May 25th, 77.
Yeah, made by Patrick Reed Johnson.
And I had no idea what I was watching. It was my sister's boyfriend at the time got us free passes. And I'm like, what are we watching? Like Star Wars. I'm like, huh?
The greatest movie ever made.
It was. I mean, I remember coming out of that theater. I'll never forget it. Just looking at the stars was just so blown away. It changed my life.
So you've heard it here, folks. It's exclusive, and it's It's set in stone now. We're doing late night party every single Wednesday night now.
You know, instead of a dead man's party like Oingo Boingo was saying about, it's a Wednesday night party, and we should. We could probably even get Danny Elfman to come. He'd do it just for fun.
There you go. There you go.
Probably. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Mikey.
Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 2.
This has been episode 79, and it matches up with the 79 episodes of the original series of Star Trek. I'm happy about that. That's an accomplishment.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. It's very cool.
Good night, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
And if you subtract 10 episodes, it's 69. That's a Bill and Ted reference.
That's right. And if you haven't had a chance yet, you got to check out Star Wars XXX. Awesome. Awesome stuff. You gotta see it just for Robert and
I fly an X-Wing and I have a 70s porn stash.
Yeah.
Congratulations to both of you for continuing to follow your bliss.
Thank you so much.
Love it.
All right. Take care, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Next week.
See ya.
Next week.